create. So at Bioware, we're blessed to have some great writers that are masters of that form of narrative. And you have to think of all the angles. You have to allow for choices at every point that cover every possible permutation of what you're trying to feel as a player. And then you have to have the consequences that reflect those choices, both in the short term and the long term. And that's part of that evolution, I think, of emotion, of investment by the player, is allowing them to make choices that are reflected with consequences, even different endings, completely different endings. And we're definitely building those things into Mass Effect.
There's one thing I'd say about these multiple branching storylines. They're very interesting, they excite me, and I definitely do want them, and there's going to be branching in Fable. There's one slight snag, is that you've got to be very careful that people don't start believing they've taken the wrong choice. You know, if I talk to you and you said, oh, with Fable 2, God, have you seen that dragon? It's amazing. And I think, oh, God, I haven't seen the dragon. Oh, God, I've made the wrong choice. I want to go back and start again. That's where we've got to be very, very careful. We've got to realise that it's incredibly important that you and I can sit down and talk about those moments in the game. And that's where branching can work against them. So it's very difficult. I'm sure you're handling it, Ray, and it's a tough thing.
Yeah. So I would counter, you know, I think it's exciting if different players have different experiences in the game, and they each have their own heroic journey. So you can be a hero or an anti-hero, and maybe no two players would actually have exactly the same story arc. And that leads to replayability, it leads to total customization of your experience, and the emotional payoff that you get as a player is much higher if it's truly your own unique story. Just like real life, right? No, you're not going to have exactly the same path as someone else. Why would you want to have exactly the same path, a linear path, as a player in a game? I love non-linearity, and we're aspiring to that. And we want to make every choice feel deeply, emotionally impactful. And
I mean, it must be difficult, though, from a development perspective, to be able to create all these non-linear options, because that means that it's already so hard to do these next-gen games, and then to create all this content that some players may never see in playing the game. I mean, how do you balance that sort of the need for open-endedness with sort of the development realities of creating next-gen games?
Frankly, it's damn hard. Right. Because you have to build a ton of content, and you have to allow for multiple paths and permutations and combinations through the game. And you have to then think about the emotional return the player's going to get from every choice they make. And you have to spend a lot of time bringing them all up to the same standard so that players feel that there is no wrong choice. Mass Effect, your Commander Shepard is kind of like Jack Bauer in space. There's no right outcome in the short term, but you have a grand goal. You're saving billions of lives, and that's a price. You have to sometimes expend things in the short term in order to achieve the greater good, and that's difficult. But we want players to feel that they're making choices with consequences.
I think that's. I mean, it's not that I don't want to do multiple branching, and I think I love the idea. That's the whole point. It's easy to say that. It's the whole point of the good evil in Fable is that you experience that. The only problem is that for me, I'm insecure enough to believe that I'm always going to take the wrong path, and that worries me. It just worries me that I'm thinking, oh, I'm going to have to start that bit again because I didn't get it this time, and that is just another thing to worry about.
Let's talk a little bit about multiplayer and online, which is something that is incredibly popular, especially on the Xbox platform with a lot of people with multiplayer. RPGs have always sort of battled with the idea of how do we include any type of multiplayer experience. Obviously, they're massively multiplayer games, but how do you see multiplayer fitting into the future of RPGs? Is it more going to come in through co-op play with members of a party being actual friends that you're playing with? We're seeing games experimenting with that, or is there another type of multiplayer that we'll see in these games?
What I give. Yeah. FF11 はオンラインゲームで僕も好きなんで FF のちゃんと正規の11作目をオンラインゲームにして今夜あそこにいるシェーンと話すんで、ブルードラゴンかロスオデッセイのオンラインも出るといいなと。
So he's fond of multiplay, and he's fond of online connectivity. This is where he sees a growth in the area. And the Final Fantasy XI that he embarked on, he saw the need, and he went into It created that was an online game. So he's hoping that he could talk with Shane and see if he can create an online game that's going to stand from either BB or LO.
Nice. We'll do the deal right here. Okay. What's the pitch? What's the game? Yeah, it's good.
Tell Shane.
Shane? Please, Shane. I want to win.
Say whatever you want.
Whatever you want. There you go. Green light.
Could I do one as well, Shane? Thank you. Yeah, well, this is really exciting. I mean, you know, for the first time, really, consoles are really connected. Not just PCs. It's consoles, and they're really connected, and they're connected. And what you're finding is people are leaving their consoles connected all the time. You know, they're not just logging in and logging out, and that's a real opportunity here. I mean, if there's any genre that really is sympathetic to online and multiplayer, it's got to be RPG, surely. I mean, the idea that you, as an individual, uniquely can show off and to work with and to co-op with your friends and meet new people, I think that's super exciting. I'd love to talk about that in great, enormous detail, but I have been gagged by lots of people, and so I can't. But I think it's one. It's, you know, how is this RPG?
Why is it taking so long, then, do you think, for RPG?
Because one is the home of RPGs is really the sort of real entertainment story-based RPGs tends to be more on the consoles because of Final Fantasy and all of those, or all the legacy of Final Fantasy and all of those. And there's only recently they've really been connected. The other thing is there's a lot of stuff to work out. There's a lot of technology to work out. There's a lot of gameplay issues to work out, and it's scary, man. It really is scary. And you know, you've got to ask yourself, you know, am I making RPG or an MMORPG, or you know, what is this? Is there a middle ground? Is there something new you mentioned about? And I think there's a lot of reasons why you haven't really seen the real evolution of what was going to happen. I mean, obviously, the Phantasy Star Online, I mean, really was an interesting thing on Dreamcast. So it's, you know, it's been around for some time. This revolution that's coming.
So I find the concept of multiplayer storytelling incredibly exciting as well. And I haven't been gagged, so I'll try and add some comments on that. We're doing some exciting things down in our Austin studio, and we haven't revealed a lot of details yet, but I'll kind of maybe hint at some of the rough shape of what we're building. We're very excited where massively multiplayer games are going, because the story that develops between players, the social interaction, that's a different kind of story, and it's something you can't really achieve in a single player game. So what if you fuse the concepts that great RPGs have built in terms of a great storyline, the emotional impact on players, and you put that into an MMO? That's what we're building at Bioware Austin. So we haven't revealed any details of that yet, but I'm incredibly excited about that. And I think in a way, the MMOs they're pushing the envelope, and they're doing some exciting things that you just can't do in single player games. And single player games are doing some things you can't do in MMOs. So it's really, you know, I think there's a place for both of them. I think they're both very important. We've tried to do both in the past as well. You can pursue a middle ground in games like Neverwinter Nights, but you can make compromises in the way the stories are told if you aren't really doing, you know, going all out and pursuing the full massively multiplayer experience, or going all out and telling an amazing single player storyline like what we have in Mass Effect, a non-linear narrative. But I think the social interactions between players allow you to tell stories of a different kind.
All right, well, you guys are journalists too, so I don't want to hog the floor. If anyone has any questions, you want to ask, I want to leave some time for that. So go ahead.
One thing I wanted to ask is, well, a while back on the Super Nintendo there was an RPG, Secret of Mana, where it was multiplayer, but the story was very linear. I'm wondering why something like that really hasn't been attempted in sort of online multiplayer environment. Sort of people, like several people working together in a party, but a linear narrative. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Ray's just smiling.